ad lib it. All right, everybody here? I got Shelley, I got Emily, Scott, Austin, Lou, yep, Kristen. There now, Kristen. Lou, can you just make a motion to suspend the rules of procedure that were adopted on January the 21st, 2020?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Lou. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. All right. First up is a COVID-19 update from our city administrator, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. Just got a few things. Just wanted to give you all some updates. I provided them at the end of the week last week, but just wanted to get them on the record and get them out there for folks to hear. The first relates to utilities. We're going to be sending out some reminder letters to all of those that are delinquent in water, sewer, and electric utilities, just to remind them that there is a delinquency on the account. If they are able to pay, to please try to pay something on the account or to call in and set up payment arrangements, because what we don't want to have happen is once the governor lists a moratorium on utility cutoffs and late charges, that people are caught in a situation that they might have a hard time getting out of. Obviously, we are not going to go out and immediately start cutting service, but we do want them to be cognizant of the fact that there is a delinquency, and if there's any way we can help them with payment plans, we'll do whatever we can to help them try to get that arrearage back in place. Also, we would just also remind that, with the stimulus checks that went out, to please be aware of the fact that one of the reasons for that is to help with some of your utility issues that you might have if you haven't been able to pay, and just to keep that in mind, because that's going to be extremely important as we go down the road. We don't want to see anybody in a position that they're not able to pay their utilities. Tax sale, the county commissioners approved last week, I think it was Thursday, to postpone tax sale until September. So that provides those that have not yet paid their FY20 taxes some time yet to still pay and stay current on the arrearage. Everything, they will get another legal notice if they have not paid their taxes in June, and then the process will continue. We will submit those in August. Those that still have not paid in August to the county treasurer, and then the tax sale will commence in September. We've met concerning the pool, how we're going to deal with the pool right now. We are still on schedule with the pool to open on Memorial Day. All the preparations are continuing to prepare the pool. We have talked about some things we may have to do, such as limit the number of folks that can get into the pool at any one time. We're going to be putting some face guards up in front of the cashiers to keep that distance and keep that protection for the cashiers at entry to the pool. Also looking at what we can do with the locker room area to try to make sure that stays safe and that there's social distancing and all that good stuff going on. So Rodney's working on that. We're taking that on a week-by-week basis. As the governor makes more announcements, we'll have to gauge whether we can maintain an opening on Memorial Day or whether we might have to push that back. There is guidance out there on how to run pools in conjunction with this pandemic and still allow folks to enjoy the pool. And we've got copies of that. So we'll be making those decisions as we move forward. The golf course, pretty much a turnkey situation when we want to reopen the golf course with those same steps to keep in mind. We know that there's people getting on the golf course now. We would ask that if we understand why you're doing it, because golfing is one of those things that is outdoors, you're able to maintain the distance. But we just ask you to, try to keep safety in mind there. Events in May, we're still holding firm on events. Again, that's with everything else. We're playing this week by week. Imagine Hagerstown is the next big event, as well as Railroad Heritage at City Park. I'm pretty much giving Imagine Hagerstown to the end of the week to see what the governor has to say this week as far as whatever reopening plan they have. But we're still staying the course on those for now, and we'll have more information on that coming up. Parking will maintain free parking for the time being. Another one we're looking at, but that'll be a phased roll back into paid parking when the time comes. But for now, everything's staying free parking downtown and at any metered space. Couple more things, sorry. Farmers Market, we're going to be meeting again tomorrow on looking at creating an outdoor farmers market in the central lot, the logistics for that, also how we can potentially open the inside of the market for takeout at Jeff and Debbie's and the other, I can't remember the name of the other restaurant or the other food preparation places in there for pickup only to take back outside to eat. So we're going to meet again tomorrow on some logistics on that between Eric, Kitty, and Jill and I. So we'll have more information later on the week to perhaps try to do something in May to get the farmers market moving again. There was interest from several of the vendors to do that, so we'll see if we can't get that worked out.
Scott, pardon
Yes.
me.
I'm sorry.
Under the governor's executive order, farmers markets are exempt. Why are we not, doing more? I mean, I understand the eatery, but when it comes to the vendors, I mean, why are we not?
Well, we closed it down because just the logistics of the farmers market, it was really tough to create social distancing in the farmers market because of how tight the aisles were. That's going to be something we also talk about tomorrow as to whether that we could actually do that. We know that the Dutch market out Long Meadow remains open as far as the food vendors go. But if you're not selling food, there was some differing thoughts as to whether those vendors could still stay operational. By putting it outside, especially with nice weather, you kind of get rid of that issue. We wouldn't have anybody really question it, but we're going to talk about that more tomorrow. One other thing, MML, talked to the president of MML on Thursday afternoon. MML is still on for now in Ocean City at the end of June. They're going to meet Saturday as a board of directors to discuss whether that's going to continue. They're the same way. They're going to try everything they can to keep that going for not only participants, because I think if there's ever a need for a bunch of us to get together and have some discussion, it's now. But they've also got Plan Bs for a virtual conference that is in the works as well. So one way or another, there'll be an MML conference. It's just whether it's in Ocean City or whether we do it like this. That's it for me on the COVID update. Joey, I think you're out at the EOC. Do you have anything to share right now that you can share?
No, like I said, we picked up 3 new cases today, but nothing new to report out here today.
Okay, Mayor, that's it for me then. Thank you.
Anything from the council for Scott or Joe? Okay, All right, we're gonna do the preliminary agenda review. As always, stop me if you need to. When it comes to, the invocation, I'm just gonna go ahead and give that next Tuesday. We can still do the pledge of the flag, which is cool. Announcements are, we're changing the way that we do, citizen comments. And citizen comments will be provided after the approval of new business. To submit comments, send an email to councilcomments@hagerstownmd.org. We'll put this someplace in our social media and on our website. No later than 6 p.m. on next Tuesday. Please include your full name, full address, and topic of your comment. You may attach a letter to the email or write your comments in the body of the message. The city clerk will read your name, address, and provide a summary of the comments. The full copy of the comments will be provided for public viewing as part of the minutes. So that's how we're going to handle citizen comments next week. Scheduled meetings on Tuesday will be May 5th, 12th, and 19th are all work sessions at 4 p.m. Also on the 19th is the public hearing at 7 p.m. on the tax rate and the fiscal year 21 budget. Tuesday, May 26th is a regular session at 7 p.m. Under announcements, we'll get another update from our city administrator, Scott Nicewarner, on the COVID-19. We'll have some appointments to the Board of Code Appeals. We'll have a public hearing, comprehensive rezoning. We'll adopt the minutes of February 4th, 11th, 18th, 25th, March 3rd, 10th. Under the consent agenda, the Department of Community and Economic Development, we have the 2020 trick or treat date. Surprise, October 30th, not the 31st. 2020. Department of Parks and Engineering, asphalt walkway paving and parks from Craig Paving Incorporated, Hagerstown, Maryland, for $67,150. Under City Park, ornamental fencing, all state fence, Lynchburg, Virginia, $68,324. Now, both of those, we are using a little bit of general fund money, but most of that is covered by other monies, POS and things like that. Any questions on those two? Okay. Under Utilities Department, all utilities, street patching repair, Huntsbury Brothers Inc., Smithsburg, Maryland, for $297,500. Under water, RCW Water Treatment Plant, HM1 Upgrade ABB Inc. of Cleveland, Ohio, for $295,937. Underwater, polyorthophosphate, Shannon Chemical Corporation, Malvern, PA for $79,560. Underwater, the cationic polymer, Magnafloc, from George S. Coyne Chemical Company Incorporated, Croydon, Pennsylvania, $26,910. And under wastewater, Sinagro, change order to the existing contract, which we were presented earlier. Under unfinished business, we have the approval of an ordinance amending Chapter 35, the Ethics Commission of the City Code. The approval of ordinances for quitclaim of Valley 2-57A, Fitzgerald at 550 Highland Way, Geekja 650 Sunset Avenue, Draper 648 Sunset Avenue, Dietrich 618 Sunset Avenue, Brown 614 Sunset Avenue, Thurber 612 Sunset Avenue, and Kimball at 610 Sunset Avenue. We'll have the approval of an ordinance adding a new Article 13 Stormwater Protection Program to Chapter 213 Stormwater Management. We have the approval of an ordinance amend Chapter 213, Section 5 Definitions. We have the approval of an ordinance repeal and replace Chapter 216, Article 2 Sidewalks and Curbs of the Code of the City of Hagerstown. We have the approval of resolution user agreement with the Hagerstown Area Youth Soccer League, which was tabled on 4/7/20. We have the approval of a resolution, the user agreement with the YMCA of Hagerstown, also tabled on 4/7/20. Under new business, introduction of an annexation resolution, review and Heroin annexation, 50 West Oak Ridge Drive. The approval of an annexation plan for review and Heroin annexation. The introduction of an annexation resolution, I-70 and MDOT MBA MSP state facilities. The approval of an annexation plan of I-70 and MDOT MBA MSP state facilities. Introduction of an annex resolution to Valley Mall properties on Cole Road. The approval of an annexation plan for the Valley Mall properties on Cole Road. Introduction of an annexation resolution to Valley Mall properties on Valley Mall Road. And the approval of an annexation plan for Valley Mall properties on Valley Mall Road. Under new business, continued is the approval resolution, bailment agreement between Hagerstown Police Department and Washington County Sheriff's Department for patrol rifles. The approval of memorandum of understanding for Professional Boulevard, and the approval of an on-call plumbing services from 5/1/20 to 4/30/21. We'll then take we'll read the citizen comments, the clerk will. We'll have the city administrator comments, and we'll have mayor and council comments, and then we'll adjourn. Any questions, guys? Okay, cool. Seeing none, we're moving right along. The Hagerstown Suns request for rent utility relief. Rodney Tissue is off in the Burhan's room waiting on us. Hello, Rodney.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
Gotcha.
Okay. Hi, everyone. The Suns have submitted 2 letters for relief from both rent and utilities. And you may remember that they pay $35,000 a year in rent. And we take that money then in turn and make improvements at the stadium. At this point, the Suns are assuming that they won't have any baseball games there through the end of June. And obviously that's to be determined. The lease is written, it has a unusability clause. It's basically defined that unless the Suns do something and the stadium's not usable, unless the Suns did it, then they are entitled to an abatement of the charges that they have to use the stadium, specifically rent and utilities. So I'll take them both separately. On the rent side, there's no formula about how to abate it. So if you look at their letter, what they did was they basically took their annual rent of $35,000, divided it by the number of home games, which is 70, and they came up with $500 a game. And they're asking that for every home game that they don't have, that they get an abatement of $500 from their rent. Like I said, there's really no formula in the lease about how to abate. So the other way of doing it would be maybe a more customary way of doing rent, which would be on a monthly basis. The other way of looking at it would be if they're there for 12 months of the year, and for every month that the stadium is unusable because of the pandemic, they would be entitled to an abatement of rent for that month, which works out to be a little bit less than $3,000 a month. I would note that since the lease was amended a few years ago, it's always been my understanding that the intention is for the rent and the annual improvements to be cost neutral. So just to update you on that, back in October, you approved a list of improvements at the stadium, $35,000 worth of work. We have completed about 20,000 of it. We stopped working on it when some of this started to take place with the pandemic. So there's 15,000 there that we haven't spent. Shifting over to the utilities, I think it's pretty clear that we have to abate those utility fees for them. Since they're not there, you're looking at minimal usage. So on the electric side, the minimum charge there is about $100 a month. And on the water sewer side, it's going to be about $200 a month, unless they run the irrigation. The only staff person that's down there right now, as I understand it, is the groundskeeper. And if the irrigation system is run, that could increase that water and sewer bill fairly significantly. But other than that, it's about $200. So I think the question before you is really, what method do you want to use to abate the rent? If you have to abate the utilities, however we decide, I think we should send Sons a letter kind of documenting that and agreeing to that before we get too far. And I think the Sons may be available by phone call. I think they're on the call here.
Hey, Rodney, this is Austin. Is there, since this pandemic is affecting the whole country, has there been any talk about delaying the game schedule nationwide?
I have not heard that. If Tim or Travis are on the phone, maybe they could answer that, but I have not heard anything.
Yeah, this is Tim.
Lou?
This is Tim McDoulan, and I'd be happy to jump in on that note. Obviously, the season is very much in jeopardy. The best case scenario, we're looking at starting to play the third week of June, which is basically the All-Star break, and it's a little past halfway. So if we were to start playing, the earliest would be July 1st, and then there is some talk about possibly extending the season a couple of weeks in September, to get to 35 or possibly 40 games. But here again, everything is really, really up in the air. And one thing, you have our commitment. As we get information, we'll be more than happy to pass it along to you. We'll keep you updated as we get information. I have heard some talk that the major leagues are trying to do a 100-game schedule starting July 1st, and then to have the World Series held in October in Los Angeles. But here again, everything is really up in the air, and it's really hard to predict exactly how things are going to work out.
Tim?
Yeah.
Scott and I were talking earlier before this meeting about the situation. Don't get me wrong. I wholeheartedly support doing something over there. What we talked about and the suggestion that I had was that we hold off on, I'm pretty sure I speak for the entire council when we talk about we will follow Roger's direction about utility relief. But when it comes to rent relief, I feel, and this is my feeling, and Scott and I have talked about it, is that we hold off on making any decision on rent relief at this point until we see when you can actually start playing again. And if there is going to be an extension of the season, you definitely should be given some kind of relief. That I just want to make sure that we're doing it the right way and we're fully responsible when we do it.
Okay. Well, let me kind of jump in on that point as well, in that, we have zero revenue coming in right now. And for those of you, I don't know how well you know Bruce Quinn, but Bruce is a very loyal person. He is not furloughed. He has not laid off anyone, despite the fact that there's very little for them to do right now. We did apply for the PPP, Payroll Protection Plan, but they ran out of money and we did not get approved. Even if we had gotten approved, that would not work toward the rent because the rent had already been paid. But he's continuing to pay his employees without any relief from the federal government, and really, quite frankly, without anything for them to really do. But that speaks to the person that Bruce is. He's very loyal to his employees and appreciates the hard work that they've provided for the Suns over the years.
Bob, this is Lou, if I can ask, do the Suns, I know the lease gives them the use of the stadium all 12 months, but do they actually use it all 12 months of the year?
They have personnel there, without a doubt, because there are things to do in the off season, which is to get ready for the next season, which starts nearly immediately when the season ends. But Yeah, I mean, and
The reason I ask is I think there's a third alternative, and that alternative, and I agree with what you're saying, the wait, but the third alternative would be to take their playing season is the amount of months that $35,000 covers, and use that instead of 12 months, which would give them more a month in a rebate.
And again, I think when you shake it all out, that 500 per game actually is probably more accurate. And I realize that Tim and you know very well that during the off season, you guys work very hard to try to get ready for the next season, which of course is getting sponsorships and those kind of things. And you know, although sales of food and beverages is probably your mainstay, you know, sponsorships is a huge part of that. And I can't even imagine what you guys have went through so far when it comes to deal with that. Maybe you can speak about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's been very difficult. I mean, we were scheduled to open up on the road, and the team was going to report on April 6th, and we had a meet the team event planned for the 7th, and then they were going to go to Rome, and then on to Columbia, I believe, and then come home on the 16th. So to your point earlier, we spent the last 7.5 months preparing for this season, and very, very disappointed. We were looking forward to kicking it off with the City of Hagerstown night on April 16th. And, but we're trying to keep everything in perspective as well, and trying to stay positive.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like the $500 per game probably makes the most sense, because then if some miracle occurs and they're able to push the season out further and we don't have any bad weather in September and all that, might actually be able to pull a season or a good chunk of a season out of this.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking.
Hi, Tim. This is Shelley McIntyre. I think that the approach is good. I think that I agree with Austin's approach, or whoever suggested that. And I think that once this is all over with, our community and surrounding communities are going to need entertainment like the Suns that is inexpensive for families to go to. So now more than ever, we're going to have to, you know, work hard, I think, to help fill your seats. So gone are the days of high concert tickets and high baseball games, I'm afraid. So community and local baseball is going to be very important. I feel it's painful. Sorry you have to go through this.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I believe you're on the way to, again, I'm sure the council, you can reply to this, please. You're fine with Rodney's suggestion that, you know, of course, out that we take over utility costs. We abate that cost for them, shut down. You're all good with that, of course, right?
I'm good with any alternatives, any and all of them.
Okay, so Tim, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I want to get with Scott, and we're going to have a conversation about what kind of formula we want to look at for relief for you, and we'll let you know before Friday. We'll pass it by the council to get their concurrence also, and you'll have some kind of a decision from the city on Friday. Okay.
Okay. And Travis, did I leave anything out? Is there anything you'd like to add to what we've spoken about?
No, I think you covered it all. Appreciate everybody taking the time to kind of hear us out and help us out. Everybody's kind of in a difficult situation right now, and we appreciate you taking the time to look into this.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Rodney. Next up is professional boulevard agreement with Washington County. Rodney.
You may recall last February 2019, when Mike Spiker was the interim administrator, he presented a plan where we would work with Washington County on the maintenance of the streets, bridges, and other infrastructure in the professional boulevard corridor. It's taken us this long to get everything put together, but I think we have an agreement now that the county and hopefully the city can approve. Since all that was discussed last February, you'll recall that the bridge now is under construction. They're working on the foundations as we speak. We did a major annexation out there. So again, the agreement's in its final form. Just some highlights of what's in this agreement is that city will fund $50,000 towards the final design of the widening of Professional Court. And again, this is in the budget that you're going to be reviewing. So all these are appropriated in our budget. Secondly, there'll be improvements, obviously, to widen Professional Court to a 4-lane road. There'll be some corresponding improvements out on Eastern Boulevard to the traffic signal to allow that maneuvering with that widened road. And that's all estimated to be $2.5 million, which that'll be our share of the project cost. The bridge is a major structure. It'll be our bridge. It'll be almost 400 feet long. But we worked out an arrangement where in the future, when it needs major repairs, like it needs a new deck or other work done to it, the city's share of that cost would only be 10%. The rest we would require the county and the state government to help fund through the bridge program that the state has and that the county participates in as well. And then the other things in the agreement are just things like routine street maintenance, bridge maintenance, stormwater management, things like that. So we're recommending it for approval for both bodies. If you approve it, then coming down the pike in the future would be, we have to approve a deed to accept the stormwater pond. And we have to deal with some of the limits of what we're going to maintain as far as the street, as far as we need an agreement between us and the county of what part of professional are we maintaining. Exactly, just something that irons that out. But I think this basically fulfills what we talked about last year.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, sounds good. Shelley?
Yes.
I'm good with it.
Lou?
I'm good, Mayor.
Kristen?
I'm good.
All right, thank you, Rodney. Michelle, you're up. This year 21 budget review.
Hello, everyone. I thank Rodney for agreeing to stay and help me this evening. I think we're here. I do not believe that either Rodney or I are actually looking for a decision point this evening, but as part of reviewing and what is included in our fiscal year 21 budget, a large component and a new component of that is for stormwater management program and the implementation of that program to begin in fiscal year 21. So I think knowing where we currently are with the pandemic that's in place and everything else that is occurring, we just wanted to take a brief moment, take a step back, talk about stormwater management program, and actually just to talk about where we are as the city and staff in the process and cover and go over what was included in the fiscal year 21 budget. And then I think where we are in a way of recommendations and to kind of end it up with an overall calendar of or time frame of actions that need to occur. So stormwater management program, this is not a new concept. It's nothing that is unique to the city of Hagerstown. It is actually something that the city has been studying in conjunction with our consultants. And for the past several years, we did phase 1. Rodney has had a really good relationship with the consultant group as well as the Stormwater Advisory Committee that was, made up of various members throughout our community that represented businesses, both nonprofit and profit. And the group was very good on participation. I mean, there was a large number of people, and it wasn't like they just didn't participate or miss many meetings at all, because that was not the case. So all of that was very good. Mayor and council were very supportive of this initiative. And again, the stormwater program, what we're talking about is a mandate in federal and state permit mandates that's come down to what we need to do is our share and responsibility of water quality. And in order to do this, we're looking at a very large dollar price tag of area within the city to make improvements to help meet our permit requirements. So again, the actions that have to be taken and the improvements that we need to put in place is a requirement of the city. We have no options for that. So then how do we pay for this? And again, we hired a consultant. We went through phase 1. Mayor and council were very supportive. We continued through on phase 2, and phase 2 was more in depth and detail, focused on what we're already spending as a city and the cost that we're incurring now, as well as new costs that will continue to increase as we implement this program and initiative. And then finally, what that looked like to be cost neutral. If we set up a separate utility fund and handle it just like we do electric, water, and wastewater, there would be a charge for service. So we wanted to attempt to keep that as low as possible, knowing it's going to be added on to a current either quarterly or monthly utility bill. And the other part of that phase 2 that I'm failing to mention and should not was public outreach efforts. There were several different meetings in the community. There's a video that's been put out. There's information on our website. And I think the consultants, again, we were very fortunate in that we found a group that has worked with, many, many municipalities that is very responsive anytime you call or send an email, and are very knowledgeable. It helps tremendously, I think, in this overall effort in the current outreach and education that we've done. So that brings us to pretty much today where we are as we've moved forward with phase 3 and starting to look at actual actions and items and next steps that need to be taken. One of the things the staff that we're doing is, continuing to work with the consultant to make sure that we have everything in our computer system established and set up and good to go at the point that we were ready to do this implementation of creating a separate fund. So in our fiscal year 21 budget, and I included this in my memo, in the general fund, stormwater operating expenses of $1.3 million. Sounds like a lot, but the majority of those costs, we have a lot in staffing. The 2 main things, though, we have $250,000 for incentives, and we have some other money to start the process of proactively looking and contracting and taking a status of our storm drains job. And with the packet and what's made available on our website, I included those stormwater operating expenses are reflected in section 2 of the budget book on page 55. We also have capital projects that are included in our fiscal year 21 budget. And those amount to about $2.5 million. Again, I included a snapshot in the memo of where you can find that and what that looks like. And it is in section 7. The information that I included, again, was a snapshot. It wasn't the detailed CIP sheets, but it's section 7, page 32. And it pretty much just details for you what those projects are, total dollars, and how they're funded. And the assumption in the budget in fiscal year 21 is that the majority of the $2.4 million in projects would be funded with a stormwater fee, as well as new bond finance and some prior bonds that we already have. Last but not least, stormwater future bond issues and an annual debt service requirement. So we can't fail to mention that there are certain things that we're already doing, and street sweeping is an obvious one. We just purchased 2 new street sweepers within the last, actually received them within the last 18 months. And we had issued a bond to do that. At that point in time, at the point we issued the bond, we acknowledged that we were already in this process and that the general fund would cover those annual debt service payments to the bondholders until such a point in time that we established a separate stormwater fund and fee, and then the separate fee would help cover those costs. So the information that's included, and it is also in the budget book, is in the financial projection section 6, and it's page 12. And that information displayed is just overall big picture of all the different bonds that have been previously issued, as well as at the bottom, we tried to segregate out what the new stormwater bonds would be based on all the fiscal year 21 projects. So when I included all this in the fiscal year 21 budget, of course, we say, ooh, 1.3 million in expense. Well, the offsetting measure in the general fund is the assumption that we would receive 1.3 million in stormwater revenue. And again, the assumption was that we would start that July 1. And I know sitting here as the director of finance is probably very odd for me to say, but you know, I truly cannot recommend from a staff perspective as an organization that we go ahead and implement this new fee in July. I think that we progress and continue on the same track that we are on. I think it's very necessary because our requirements and expectations of what we have to do as a city is not going to be alleviated. The requirements are still going to be there. We're still going to be mandated to do all these projects. So I think it's very important that this body continues all the initiatives that we have done and the effort that's in place, and go ahead and establish a separate utility fund. We would move everything over, but that we not start billing or charging until either October 1 or January 1. And the reason I'm saying October and January is that gives us a clean cut starting place quarterly. And a lot of our billings on the utility side are on a quarterly basis. In your packet, but I just turn it over to Rodney to go over those key dates and times of when we're going to come back for next steps.
So on April 7th, we introduced the stormwater ordinance and also the associated curb and sidewalk changes. And what's on your agenda then for next week, as you saw, is to approve those ordinances. I guess if I could use a horse racing analogy, the way I see that is that loads the horses in the starting gate, but the gun isn't actually fired until you approve a resolution that sets the stormwater fee and the starting date, which we weren't planning on having you do that till at least May. And in May there, you can see we have a list of things that we need to take care of. We're kind of house cleaning for all this. But as far as the ordinances go, we do have it on the agenda for next week to get that finalized and get everything ready to go whenever you decide it's appropriate.
And then, so basically we would set up the new funds, and we would still do that in July. There's a lot of staff, there's a lot of current equipment, there's already a lot of initiative and expenses that we're doing. And we just go ahead and reflect them all in the stormwater fund. I think, realistically, starting up a new fund, we would more than likely have to advance some money out of the general fund anyway, until the point that cash flows begin receding. I see the actual process in all of this is no different, just that the actual starting point on billing out to customers and businesses would be delayed by at least 1 quarter or 2 quarters. There are some expenses, like if the program doesn't start, the $250,000 in economic incentives would not start. It would be delayed, so we wouldn't incur quite as much as expenses, but we had in the 1.3 million, as well as, included in the 1.3 was starting the initiative and being proactive and doing a review and hiring a contractor to help assist in looking at storm drains that could be delayed. And, some of the staffing definitely is part of this, would need at least 1 additional full-time staff. Because this does add, even though we are doing some things existing with staff, within engineering as well as public works, it would still take a tremendous amount more. The good news is within billing and support services, we feel like we can add this and make it work. The implementation part will be the roughest on staff resources, but again, we don't think additional full-time staff is needed there. It's just a matter of the other key areas that need oversight. So again, not looking for a decision this evening, but definitely when Ronnie comes back in May, to include in that time period of what is the actual starting date. And again, if you all say tonight, or you say on Monday, you look at Ronnie and you look at me and you say, pull the trigger, or starting July 1, and I think as staff, we would be prepared to do that. I just don't know that now is the right time to be putting that message out.
The only other thing I would say too is I was always prepared to go meet with the top 10 players and make sure they understand what the program is about and what it's for. I'm also kind of tentatively scheduled to meet with some homeowners associations, and we can have another public hearing if you want us to. But obviously all those things are on hold for right now. But that's always been our intention to do those before the program starts.
And the way that this would be set up, and Rodney has mentioned it in many of the prior meetings, is that this is not $1.3 million expectation on city residents. It's shared across the board, and it's shared with nonprofits, so that it's not the same people necessarily that is supporting the only tax base. And again, we had tremendous support on the Stormwater Advisory Committee from a variety of businesses.
Well, there's absolutely no doubt that this process with stormwater management fees, along with the budget, is going to be a very fluid endeavor, period, because of all the unknowns at this point in time. And I believe that we treat this the same as we treat the budget. We use our best common sense before we implement it, and that people are ready for it. So you're probably correct. It's probably more like October, November, but I appreciate that. Appreciate all your hard work on it, both Rodney and you, Michelle.
One thing I was thinking, this is Austin. One thing I was thinking was with so many people at home right now, this would be a great time to start putting out some information about how you could lower your fee by doing projects around the house with water disbursement and some of the things we've talked about before, to be able to get a credit when this goes into play. So I think it might be good to at least let people know, again, this is coming. It's not a we're going to forget about it and it's not going to happen. It is coming. It's not something we can really delay indefinitely, but I don't know, people might want to take advantage of the time now to do some work in their yards.
We have put together a fact sheet that educates about the whole program, but it also talks about the incentive program. We can send this out and just not give a start date, but that would be one step we could take to help raise that awareness that Councilman Beckman is talking about.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Okay, thank you, guys. Michelle, you're keeping your budget review pretty short. I appreciate that.
And if I could, I just want to give a brief, quick, one of the things I mentioned last time that we are actually monitoring several things within finance, a little bit more, I don't want to say daily, but I mentioned several days last week. One of the things that Scott, our city administrator, had asked that both myself as well as the support services manager take a good look at and try to come back and report weekly to this group is the amount of our outstanding aging, or in other words, how much do we have in total dollars in bills that we've generated that have not yet been paid for our primary areas, which will include electric and then water and wastewater collectively together because they're all in one bill, and finally on taxes. So as of yesterday, as of Monday, April the 20th, in electric, we had a total of 1.9 million in bills that have been generated that are not yet paid. Of that 1.98, 770,000 has been billed in this current month. Only 65,000 of that total has been billed and outstanding for more than 90 days. So 165,000 compared to 1.98 million. So as you can see, as of right now, we're still in a fairly good place with our receipts, and it has definitely helped. I would say people do know we're still open. We're open for phone payments as well as Dropbox. We have definitely seen an increase in the amount of activity and the number of transactions since last week. And then on water and wastewater side, grand total of 2.1 million in outstanding bills that have been generated and not yet paid. Of that 2.1, 1.4 million has been generated in the current month. And so water and wastewater, I'll just say again, just keep in mind a lot of, not all of those accounts, but a lot of those accounts are actually generated on a quarterly basis. So that's by far and large the biggest chunk. And then only 126,000 of that 2.1 million is greater than 91 days. And actually, I guess I should mention, because I feel like I will get at least one question. So when I'm giving you these numbers, these are active accounts only. So we do have inactive accounts or balances that are in collections, and I do not have those totals for you this evening. The real estate property tax bills, there's 1.4 million outstanding as of yesterday. 610,000 of that 1.4 million is in current 2020 tax bills. And as Scott mentioned earlier, with the delay of the tax sale process to September, there's still a couple more months now for people to make payments on that 610,000 and still be considered current. Corporate personal property taxes. Keep in mind that personal property taxes are self-reported again by businesses, and we have a total of $793,000 outstanding. Of that amount, 303,000 is amounts that have been billed in the 2020 tax year. So I'll get a little chart together, I promise, Scott, and we'll either include it in the weekly memo that goes out, or we'll include it as part of the Marin packet.
Looking at the property tax, we were about at 96% collected upon the entire tax levy. which is pretty close to where we usually are at this point in time. So that's good news, at least for this fiscal year. On the utility side, as Michelle said, usually the months of November through the end of March, that creeps, those arrearages on active accounts creep up to about 30 to 35, sometimes 40% of the overall receivable. I think what Michelle gave you, that's probably around 32, 33% on water. Actually, it's pretty close to both, on both utilities, about 32, 33%. That's, again, pretty close to historical values, at least as long as I was downstairs doing it. Once the cutoff season starts, it usually drops down to about 9 to 10%. I think we'll see once the moratorium is lifted where that goes, because I am sure, at least on the electric side, the PSC is going to be putting out some guidelines on payment arrangements that we'll have to adhere to. On the water side, we can be a little bit more flexible because that's we can control that.
Is that it? Okay. Anybody have anything? All right, city administrator comments?
Just a couple, Mayor. Once again, I want to thank city staff for everything that they continue to do for the citizens. We are still out there providing services as close to normal as can be possible in these times. And I just want to thank them again for their commitment and the quality of service that they're putting out. All of you should be extremely proud of each and every city employee that's out there working every day for the citizens. Also want to recognize some work being done downtown. I've seen 2 restaurants that are working on getting their places ready for when they're able to take customers. Cino Taco is working hard. I can't wait for them to get in to the old Flying Pie space on South Potomac Street. And just a couple doors up, the Dog House, which used to be on West Washington Street, that I was a familiar face in, as you can tell through this video, that once again, I'm looking to go up and get some good hot dogs from the Carters up at the Dog House, and look forward to them opening soon. My highlight of the week, Timmy Looper Spec DJ Sidekick was last week. I want to give a shout out this week to a good friend who has really helped a lot of kids over the past couple months that we've been going through this, and that's Brittany Wedd. Many of you have seen Brittany in her dinosaur costume, making videos, doing some readings, and just trying to help young kids adapt to this kind of new environment. I know my grandsons enjoy watching the videos of the dinosaur and can't wait to when they can actually see the dinosaur in person again. And it's good that the kids have something that they can look at and kind of escape, just like us adults like to on Friday and Saturday nights. The kids need it just as bad, and I think in some cases, perhaps more than we do, because they really don't know and don't understand what's happening. And Brittany has been a bright light for those kids to help them get through this time that we hope we are on the shorter side of than what we have been. And we look forward to getting back in Discovery Station and getting that running again. That's all for me, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, Kristen.
I have no comment this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Mayor, I'd just like to thank staff, as Scott already has. And other than that, nothing more tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Austin?
Just wanted to echo what Scott said about thanking staff. I know we got a nice letter from someone that's uses our park quite a bit and is very happy with the way the grounds are being kept. I'm out there quite often myself, and it truly is a treasure that we have City Park in downtown, and the staff is doing an excellent job during this difficult time, keeping it that way.
Emily?
Nothing tonight.
Shelley?
Nothing for me.
All right. Thank you all very much. You know, this whole pandemic has put a big monkey wrench into the If I Were Mayor contest run by MML every year. And, you know, of course, we didn't get to go to some of the schools that we wanted to go to. And but I want those teachers, and I know that we're going to be reaching out to them here this week, to please continue to send your essays to City Hall. We will still host 3 students here at City Hall to partake in the meeting on the 26th of May. We'll figure out how to do that. It'll be something like this, or depending on what restrictions are lifted, it may be more normal. But we're definitely going to have at least 3 of the winners of the ones that I choose to come and to oversee the last council meeting of May, as I always do. So chin up out there, get your essays in. I enjoy reading them. I also want to send out a huge thanks to city staff and everything they do, to HPD, all of our first responders, you know, the fire department, and I look at the guys who are out there, you know, taking care of our water and sewer lines, and all those people who are still doing the job every single day, all the staff in City Hall. You know, Michelle's task is never done, especially this year. So thank you all very much. City Clerk, who has been fantastic on top of everything's up here on the 2nd floor. Appreciate that. And our young man, Wes Decker, who helps put this together every week. He's got a full head of hair. Looks great. Well, almost full. Anyway. So thank you very much, city staff. You know, we're going to get through this. And I know right now, and those who know me, of course, know that I have absolutely no patience. And it's very, very hard for me to see the end of this, but I know it's coming. And I pray for guidance every single day because I need it. But I tell you, it's to see the sacrifices that so many have made during this time. It shows you what our community is really all about. So thank you all out there for doing all you're doing, and chin up. We're going to get through it. And by midsummer, hopefully, it'll be like this was all a bad dream. So hang in there, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks.